Upliftingly enough, stealing electricity to recharge your EV, suddenly a thing. In other news, Ned Kelly not really dead, just needed fresh batteries. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au and I get new cars cheap. Australia only. Website. Card. The WA driver of a fake Swedish-Chinese Polestar 2 has been fined 500 Shitsvillian micro pesos for plugging in to the wrong box. Dude, we've all been there. 500 bucks. In other news, that's not even close to the biggest fine you can get in Australia for an EV misdemeanor.
This video is brought to you by Olight. March sale is on 8 p.m. tonight, Wednesday the 15th of March, until midnight on Friday. Big discounts right across the Olight range. If you're looking for something for the pocket, I'm happy to say that my long-suffering EDC torch, the mighty Warrior Mini 2, it just steadfastly refuses to die, and I have so tried to kill it. It's one of the most useful EDC items you could possibly carry, and it's like Searchlight, right, for such a small package. Now, a great addition to your workshop or car is the mighty swivel, dude. There's actually a whole range of swivels now. This one is the original, the OG swivel. It's a work light, okay, but it's also a torch, which is quite clever, and it articulates on its magnetic base, and it's got a hook like a carabiner, so you can hang it wherever you want. And I'd suggest that roadside repairs in the middle of the night are immeasurably easier if you have a swivel in your glove box. New this month now, the Slimline Arcfeld UV, which is a 1000 lumen conventional EDC torch with a second beam of ultraviolet light, which is pretty specialised, but if you need to authenticate UV watermarked documents or currency or something, or catch crabs, the seaside kind, they're good for scorpions too, I think. I don't know why these things fluoresce, but isn't nature marvellous? Anyway, if you need UV light, the Arcfeld UV is a great value way of getting that. Baton 3 Pro Max now in Desert Tan for this month. This is a pretty clever torch. It's got a magnesium alloy case, so it's strong and super lightweight, and it packs a punch at up to 2,500 lumens, which is just shy of 150 metres-ish in range. And a pretty interesting new O-knife this month as well, the Freeze 3, which is a folding cleaver with a Damascus blade. And Damascus steel is very cool metallurgically. You forge weld different steels together, and then you fold it and fold it and fold it like a billion times. Then you polish it all up and acid etch the finished product so the folds really pop. And that kind of makes each one of these unique. The blade is hardened to 60 Rockwell C, so it should be pretty durable, and it's thick, like it really is a cleaver, albeit downsized. It's got G10 scales, super smooth blade action, a liner lock for security, and with the jimping on the top and the large choil for your index finger, you can really choke up on it for safely doing fine work. O-knives are typically insane quality for the price. They're great for EDC if you can legally carry one where you live, and also ideal for a go bag or a get home bag. Links in the description, sale until Friday night at midnight, and just remember the new items and those with the bigger discounts tend to sell out pretty fast. Don't say I never warned you. Code for a discount in the description as well if you miss the sale. And thanks very much to Olight for being such a solid supporter of Auto Expert.
Winston Churchill, of course, so famously said one day that the most compelling argument against democracy was a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. I fear this is going to be one of those conversations. See, this dude driving a Polestar 2 randomly in Western Shitsvillia, He goes and plugs the car in to a meter box that he just sees on the side of a road on a vacant block of land in the banjo-playing boonies. So this is like the meter box connected to your house, only without the house. He just stops and whips out the standard charger and plugs her in, and I don't know how long he was there for, but unfortunately he was caught on CCTV by the owner, and the cops were alerted, and one thing led to another, and here we are. It's a $500 fine, which is rather a lot considering the loot he got out of this. We'll get to that. From the Power Police, the Electron Squad, the Fixated Ampere Unit. Commander Coulomb took to the Facebooks to caution the public that electricity theft is not a victimless crime. You can't just take advantage of any socket you come across wide open, no matter how boonified it may be. Enough is enough, no means no, that kind of thing. The police so impossibly level-headed about this kind of thing. I do wonder, though, who installs a surveillance camera in the absolute boonies looking down at their meter box? Like, that's got to be, the vision from that, can you imagine? It's got to be roughly as compelling as the average Peter Dutton press conference, don't you think? Anyway, so let's run the basic economics of this alleged grand theft electron. And this is only an allegation, right? The dude has not been convicted of theft. I'm not making any allegation whatsoever that he or she is guilty, but let's just say it is theft, hypothetically, in a similar parallel universe kind of situation. What do you get out of it? Well, you get the standard charger, which is designed to go in a 10 amp GPO. So let's assume it draws 10 amps, which is about 2.5 kVA, right? So let's say you've got some spare time that day and you hatch your cunning plan, you wear your mask, and you're there for like, I don't know, 8 hours. 8 hours at 2.5 kVA is about 20 kilowatt hours, and over in the West, if it's peak electricity o'clock, you'll be paying 50 cents a kilowatt hour, so that's $10. Free electricity. Yes. The opportunity cost is a bit of a problem, though, I'd suggest, because, you've just blown 8 hours to get a quarter of a full battery charge, and the total benefit to you in monetary terms, $10. $10-a-roonies. Yes. To me, though, it hardly seems worth it. Not the same as knocking over Fort Knox, is it? So a $500 fine, if we break that down into equivalent electricity, that's like 1,000 kilowatt hours or a megawatt hour of electricity at peak rates, or 2,000 at sort of medium off-peak sort of shoulder rate, okay? That's a fair bit of electricity now that I think about it. Or it's, also, the fan got in the way. 250 litres of petrol. So let's just say you pay peak rates and it's like 1,000 kilowatt hours. That's the same as 13 friggin' recharges of your Polestar 2, which is about 77 or 78 kilowatt hours, something like that, or 6,240 kilometres of range, according to the WLTP test for that car. So in the real world, that's probably enough electrons to get you from Perth to Sydney, even though you can't carry them all at once, clearly. Conclusion, crime really doesn't pay. I mean, I suppose if you're smuggling 15 shipping containers of fentanyl all over the world monthly, then kind of different economics there. But thieving electricity to run your EV, not so much, especially with Commander Coulomb over in the West on the case, right? However, if we want to look at the bright side of this, and I know I do, I think it's impossibly delightful to see some properly scumbag behaviour, if proved, just creeping in to the EV space, insidiously inserting itself into electric car culture. And hopefully this will erode the insufferable self-righteousness of the average EV evangelising twat. I really hope that's the case. Speaking of which, the socials did have a bit of a meltdown, mainly by EV evangelising twats, with one commenter on the Zuck space commenting, absolutely agree with issuing fines to people stealing electricity. But how about you also start issuing fines to vehicle owners who park in dedicated parking bays? I'm assuming he or she means combustion vehicles parked in EV charging bays. Those internal combustion bastards. There's even a name for that now. Icing. Someone's going to go over and ice that spot, that EV charging bay. How impossibly woke to find people for this. We couldn't expect, ambient humanity just to be mutually, sort of bilaterally respectful and do the right thing by one's fellow man, could we? Are we going to fine the owners of a Polestar 2 for parking at a fuel bowser? Just stopping at a fuel bowser and hogging that space while they go in for their 2-for-1 fucking Kit Kats. Because that's what you miss out on, obviously, if you own an EV, okay? How big should those fines be? Dude, let me know in the comments. What is a fair amount to fine a bastard in a planet-destroying internal combustion car out there icing a self-righteous twat's EV parking bay? What would be fair? Well, as things stand currently, according to my research, research, in WA, SA, NT and Taswegia, no fine. 0. They haven't gotten onto that yet, but in Queensland, it's $55 if you ice an EV charging spot. That's been that way since February of 2022. In Victoria, it's $330, I think that's since 2020. And if memory serves, they kicked off at $99, but then $330. And that's any dedicated EV space, by the way, not just a frickin' charging bay. Okay? You've been warned, you planet-destroying Hilux owner. Now, in New South Wales, incredible, $2,200. And it's been that way just since this month, including EVs if you're not charging your EV. So apparently you can ice an EV spot in an EV in Eswegia. Go figure. Now, in Queensland, what do you think is the sweet spot for the fine? Because in Queensland, I can see some bona fide dingo piss creakian in his Hilux with his chitoir, pulls into a servo with a couple of dedicated charging bays, just across all three, right? And I can see him getting out, Muzz and Span just getting out, waiting for the outrage, waiting to see some self-righteous, planet-saving zealot twat have his head explode because the Hilux and the chitoir are just iced the whole thing up, right? I can see Muzz actually saying, nah, mate, nah, if you don't mind, I think I'll stay there. You call the cops, so it's worth the $55 for me to see that vein in your temple just... I can see Muzz doing that just for kicks, so I think the $55 is not enough. It's just not enough. But $2,200? New South Wales, we do share a considerable border with Queensland. Now, $2,200, that's the same as the fine for driving 45 k's an hour over the limit. Come on, there's no points, obviously, for the icing offence, and obviously your licence goes on a substantial holiday if you do 45 over the limit. But the fine for driving through a red light is like $478 or something, and that's roughly between a quarter and a fifth of the fine for icing an EV parking space. So I think that's just a little bit woke, don't you? I'm more of a fan of the situation on in Queensland, frankly. I mean, Queensland's a great place because trousers are optional and Joe Bjelke-Peterson basically outlawed underwear all those years ago. So it's a lot of fun going to Queensland, and I just don't know. Let me know in the comments who's got the fine right. And I think Winston Churchill, the sentiment was actually right, but ultimately things have evolved, right? The most powerful argument against democracy today is to get a whole bunch of regulators with equivalent positions in every state together in the one room and listen to them all tell you how they've got the whole thing not just operating well, but impossibly well and better than every other state.